recording. Okay, we are recording this meeting so that we can put it on our website and send it out to our members who are not able to make it. So hello, everybody. Welcome to the April meeting of the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association. It's great to see everyone who can be here. Really excited about tonight's presentations. I'm Leah Goldie. I am the Vice President of the Neighborhood Association. Our President, John Clarkson, is out of town at the moment, so I am pinch hitting. And tonight we have presentations from the Albany Public Library and the Albany School Board, as well as updates from various committees. So we will get started now with Melanie Metzger, who is the Public Library's Interim Director. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Let me just share my screen here. Okay, can everybody see that? All right. Yes. Oh, wonderful. So as mentioned, my name is Melanie Metzger, and I am the Interim Director at Albany Public Library. Scott Jarzambek, who many of you may have remembered, left us back in November, and we're currently in the search process for a new Executive Director. We hope to finish that up soon, but you got me in an interim, so I hope to serve the public library well here. So just kind of, we give this community report and budget update kind of to go over the last year. So one of the things we learned early on, or became my personal mantra throughout the pandemic, was don't waste a crisis. And we really took this to heart with Albany Public Library, and we spent the last year working on our behind the scenes workflows and processes to improve all of our services to our patrons. While there were a couple times where we had to reduce or change our services to keep our patrons safe, we also worked really hard to provide alternatives. We did robust virtual programming on Zoom and YouTube, including recorded sessions of a lot of our programs. We did virtual community meetings as well. I know we hosted Pine Hills on a couple occasions and several of the other neighborhood associations as well. We did one-on-one assistance for patrons with social service needs, including connecting them to rental, unemployment, and health and food assistance services. And then we also ramped up our e-materials for at-home enjoyment. So our ebook purchasing, our videos, our streaming videos, audiobooks, and much more. And then we also got really involved in helping people sign up for COVID vaccinations and testing. We had both testing and vaccination clinics on site. And we continue to be a continued source that connects the people with their most up-to-date COVID information. As we know, it continues to change on a daily basis. We thought we were over with it, but we're starting to see it creep back up a little bit here. As a refresher of 2021, Albany Public Library loaned out over 352,000 books and materials. And that was over 1,000 books a day across our 6 locations. We saw about over 150 visitors, provided over 33,000 public computer and Wi-Fi sessions, hosted over 28,000 people at our programs and events, mostly virtually, but we were able to provide some programming in person last year. We did a lot of outdoor programming to help us reach that goal. And we had over 16,000 views of our APL created videos on our YouTube channel. As I mentioned with our highlights, we increased our e-materials, including adding Hoopla for streaming content. So now we have the ability for streaming videos and movies and TV shows, as well as books. We updated and added more to our Overdrive and Libby app. So our book and audiobook budgets were increased in order to supplement that, because we couldn't have people come into our branch to check out books for a lot of the year, but they were kind of meeting that number of our loss of physical material with e-material. So we kind of shifted our focus with our purchasing power. We added Wi-Fi in the community. As everybody is aware, the digital divide was a huge issue within the city of Albany. And so we added outside Wi-Fi at all of our locations, so you could access it via our parks and parking lots. And we also teamed up with the city of Albany. We revamped the park Wi-Fi's at Lincoln Park, Washington Park, and Swinburne Park. And we also added 4 Albany Housing Authority locations for Wi-Fi services. And we're actually in the process of expanding that one to include both interior and exterior sites with the Albany Housing Authority. And we're looking with the city to expand some of our park Wi-Fi as well. We met patrons where they were. We continue to offer programs in a variety of formats, including virtual workshops and the book clubs, story times. It was really interesting. We were able to see participation from all over the world. We had people those who were able to leave the country and go on vacation or for business were able to attend workshops virtually overseas. We had people attending our book clubs from California and Florida and Pennsylvania. And we expanded our outdoor programs to allow for take and make programs. So you could pick up craft supplies at our locations and then do the crafts at home with a virtual session. We were really excited for all of that. That is one of our services that we don't see going away. We actually had a lot of positive input with that people actually enjoyed the virtual programs because it was the first time they could participate in book clubs or other discussions because, you know, busy home lives with children, they couldn't always make it to the library to participate, but they could virtually. So we're going to continue those. And then we did keep our doors open with services and computers and programs available. They might have been reduced, but we did have our doors open for much of 2021. If it had to be by appointment only, we were able to at least do that. But now we're back in full swing, hopefully, for the foreseeable future. So things for 2022, like I said, we just opened up our in-person programs and meeting rooms in April. We're hoping to continue that. We're hoping the surge doesn't hit us too hard and we can continue those services. So you can now book our meeting rooms for private use, both the study rooms and the community rooms. We have put a hold on after hours meetings for the time being, just because we're having some staffing issues, but we hope to have those opened up by the end of summer as well. We've been improving our physical infrastructure, working to meet the changing needs of our patrons. So at Bach, we have new study room configuration and a new computer area for the adults. We actually have, there's a beautiful study room now that overlooks the garden at Bach. So I highly recommend if you need a nice, quiet and serene place to study with a view to the outside, that's the place to go. Our Washington Avenue branch is finishing up a renovation to improve our audiovisual setup and seating, and we'll be able to live stream meetings and performances from that location. And our Delaware branch will soon have a CDTA Drive car share electric vehicle parked at that location. It's a pilot program. We're testing it out at that location, and if it goes well, there's a potential to expand that to some of our other locations. I did mention earlier on one of the slides our 6 open locations. We do have a 7th location, and that is our North Albany branch. It is part of the school district's renovation of the former YMCA building. So we are in the process of renovating that space as well with the help of the school district. We are getting our own entrance, a separate entrance, and our own bathrooms. We're really excited about that. And we're adding 2 study rooms and a programming room as well, which North Albany never had before. So we're really looking forward to opening that location up. With everything else, supply chain issues, construction hiccups, we are hoping to have it open by the end of May, but it's looking like it's going to be the end of summer now. But we will open it up in 2022. Fingers crossed. So just a couple of notes that are what's coming up at our Pine Hills branch. We have our study rooms and meeting rooms available, like I said, at all of our branches. We will have free comic book day again this year on May 7th. So you can stop on by any of our branches to pick up free comic books that day for all ages. We're going to do some jazz music performance in our front courtyard on May 21st. This we were really excited about. With the pandemic, we started using that front space a little bit more, and we had some wonderful outdoor music programs. And it really whenever we did them, the neighborhood would walk on by and stop by and sit for a while and listen to the music. So we're going to continue those. Those were really popular. And then we're having a local history book talk by Susan Petrie about the 100-Mile Home, a story map of Albany, Troy, and the Hudson River on May 23rd. Art at APL is also continuing. Our new exhibition, Lasting Impressions, opens up on June 3rd, and we'll have that available through the summer months and into the fall. Our lovely butterfly garden will have a program on the June 20th to meet some of the Cornell Cooperative Extension Master Gardeners and learn how to make your own pollinator garden. And our Tai Chi for adults is starting back up and going on Tuesday mornings in May and June. And hopefully we'll be able to do those outside and give a nice space for all of the people who are attending those. So now comes the budget part of the presentation. Our Board of Trustees unanimously approved our 2022-2023 budget. It is an operating budget of $7,372,420, which is an increase of 2.5% over the current year's total tax levy. This is below the tax cap. So a lot of people hear the 2.5 and they think it's over the tax cap, but we're actually under by a couple percent, or a little bit of a half of a percentage point. And it marks our first increase in 4 years. So we haven't gone for an increase in 4 years, but with the rising cost of just about everything in the world right now, we're seeing an increase in our costs, and we do have to ask for a little bit more money to continue our services as we currently have them. So the budget increase includes a use of our fund balance as well. And once again, like I said, this is to continue our current services and operations. This is just to keep everything static where it is right now. If approved by voters, the owner of a home assessed at $150,000 would pay approximately an additional $5.98 in library taxes next year. So the cost of one specialty coffee or half a cost of a paperback book is what it would cost to raise your taxes next year if this budget gets approved. Our budget vote is on May 17th. It is with the school district's vote as well. So the polling location is the same location as the school district vote, and I'm sure the school district will talk more about that in their presentation. Any information we have, because we're continually updating it as we get more information, will be posted to our website at www.albanypubliclibrary.org/about/budget. And if you're in need of your polling location, you can go to the school district website, albanyschools.org. We also have a trustee election coming up at the same time. This year, we have 4 trustee seats open. This is one of our years where we normally have 3 positions for full terms open, and then we have a partial term for a 4th individual to finish out a term from an individual who left us last year. So we do ask for potential candidates. If you're interested in running for the board, we would love to have you. We have a nomination process that is up on our website, or we have candidate packets at each of our locations, so you can pick up a packet. The nomination forms are due by April 27th to the city school district clerk's office. So not the city clerk, but the school district clerk's office. And the names of all of our qualified candidates will be announced on April 28th. We will have a Meet the Candidate Forum in person at our Washington Avenue location on Tuesday, May 3rd at 6 p.m. This will also be live streamed and recorded as well. So we'll have it available in both methods for people, because we have a lot of interest this year. So there's a lot of board members potentially. We're looking forward to hearing what all of the candidates have to say. And that is the end of my presentation. Once again, I'm Melanie Metzger. I'm also joined here today by Deanna DiCarlo, who is our head of branches for our West branches, which includes the Pine Hills location. I want to give a shout out to her. We're always available to answer any questions. You can contact her at Pine Hills or me. It's Metzger M at albanypubliclibrary.org. And I can take any questions right now as well if you have any.
Okay, who's got some questions? I have one. I have one actually about the board trustee candidates. Do we know if any of the current trustees are planning to run again?
Not that they have made it aware.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Who else has questions? Virginia?
Yes, I have a question. Hi,
Go ahead,
Melanie.
Virginia.
Hi.
You mentioned a lot of dates, especially pertaining to the Pine Hills branch. Will that be going out? You usually send out some kind of notice, or will you be? Because these are interesting things for our members that we would want to put on our Google group. You know, the jazz and the art, et cetera, et cetera.
Definitely. All of our programs are always listed on our website in our event calendar. And we do have a program guide that goes out every 2 months as well that can be picked up at the branches.
Okay, so that's for us to make sure that we get. I mean, I used to get, and maybe I still do get notices, electronic notices from
We do. Yes,
Okay.
we do the e-notes newsletter as well. So that should be coming to you as well. If you're not, give me a call and I'll find
I
out why
think
you're
I'm
not
getting
them.
that. Yeah, I think I'm getting that. I'll make sure. You could probably sign up on the website anyway, right? In
Correct.
case. Yeah, but I've been getting them and I'm wanting to keep getting them. Okay, so
Definitely.
that's e-notes, right?
E-note, correct.
Okay, thank you.
Check your spam because once in a while, because it is an automated program, so once in a while it does get caught by spam.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I see Marilyn Douglas is raising her physical hand. Go ahead, Marilyn. Just remember to unmute yourself. Marilyn, did you unmute yourself? Or Danielle, we can unmute her, I think, if she can't figure it out. No, we can't. Okay, Marilyn, you're muted.
All right, am I there?
You got it.
Yes, I'm trying to operate with my desktop computer's mouse and it doesn't work on my laptop. Anyway, could I just ask, you mentioned at the very beginning about the wireless connection that you have in the parks. As you may know, across the street from the Pine Hills Library is the DeWitt Clinton Park. Mm-hmm. And we do have benches and tables, picnic tables in the summertime. And I'm wondering if you might consider extending Wi-Fi service to that park. I just want to throw that out and ask if you would bring that forward to the powers that be to consider it as a possibility, because I think it would be, as Virginia says, everything that the Albany public does, particularly in the Pine Hills area, is of great interest to Pine Hills residents, and that might be a nice addition. So.
We'll look into that. We always have to work with the city for any installation on their property, but that's one we can definitely look into.
Okay, thank you, appreciate it.
Okay. Any other Danielle, are you raising your hand?
Hi, Melanie. Well, thank you. I just wanted to let you know that we really enjoyed the music in front of the Pine Hills Library last summer. Will, my husband and I, we ended up, we were going for a walk and we just saw it, and it was just like really, it was really nice. So definitely enjoyed that and look forward to getting back into the library.
Wonderful. It was actually one of my favorite. I remember the first time we did it, Deanna and I were standing outside. I'm like, why have we never done this before in the past? It was amazing. So I've been pushing them to make sure that they include a couple this year.
Awesome. Thank you.
Great. Any other questions for the library? Sounds like none. Am I hearing no other questions for the library? All right, so everybody remember that May 3rd is the Meet the Candidates Forum. It will be available for us. May 17th is the votes, and your polling location is not necessarily the same place that you vote at for non-school board, non-library elections. So you definitely will want to look that information up on the school district and library and/or library website. So thank you very much, Melanie. We really appreciate it, and Deanna. And we'll see you soon at the library.
Definitely. I'm going to stick on and listen to a little bit and then log off before my next
Absolutely.
session.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It'd be great to have you stay. Okay. Ann Savage, our school board president and member of the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association, has a presentation for us from the school district.
I sure do. And hopefully you can see my presentation. No? So you guys know I always love it when we do not have a school board meeting on the third Thursday, which means I get to actually come to Pine Hills Neighborhood Association. It does not happen very often, but when it does, I celebrate it. So we were actually had tonight as a potential school board meeting, but then we didn't need it because we were able to adopt on Monday. And so I was thrilled to be able to be here with some of my favorite people tonight. And I wanted to also acknowledge that there's 3 other board members here tonight. See, when we're not in conflict, we love to come visit with you guys. We have Ellen Krejci is here. You can see that she's on the phone for audio, but she's present and accounted for there. And we also have Tabitha Wilson, who I know is juggling a couple of things tonight, but you should see Tabitha here. And also Dr. Sridhar, who is here tonight. And then also in one window, you will see Ron Lesko, who is the Director of Communications and Operations for the district, and John Yagilski, who we are very, very, very happy to have with us as our interim Deputy Assistant Superintendent of Business Affairs. So we are really blessed to have John, who has a tremendous amount of experience, and we've worked within a number of other avenues, sitting in with us while we are seeking a new Deputy Superintendent of Business Affairs, as the prior deputy superintendent has moved on to a new position, and we're sad to lose her, but happy for her. So I am going to do a little bit of a presentation. Those of you who've done these before know that the superintendent usually does these presentations, and I usually chime in with information that might be of use. She's unable to be here, so I'm going to do the presentation. And of course, if we have any questions that I'm not able to cover, we will take those down and get back to you with them. Although hopefully between Ron, myself, and John, we'll be able to cover most of your questions. So traditionally, we begin our presentation by clarifying and establishing our vision, mission, and goals, which are listed for you here. And I will not read them except for to note that the #1 goal is to increase student achievement. And we're incredibly proud of the work that the school district has been doing over the last several years. Our graduation rate is now 82%. We exceeded the graduation rate for African-American students this year statewide, and we have closed the graduation rate gap between Black and white students to 4%, which is the lowest it has ever been. So our students are succeeding, and despite the challenges that they have been facing through COVID, and we are really, really proud of all the work that our students are doing and our staff, faculty, and administrators are doing to support them. So tonight, I'm going to run you through our budget process, talk you through the actual budget proposal, add a little bit of commentary about how those federal funds play in, because I know that there's a lot of information out there about the federal funds and how they complicate and improve the school budget. I will answer the question that always comes up, which is what happens if the budget doesn't pass? Then I will talk about 2 other propositions. And I want to clarify for you that Melanie's proposition, the library proposition, is going to be proposition 4 this year. The school district has 3 propositions, our budget, and then 2 other presentations. And then the 4th proposition will be the library. And then I'll share some more information like Melanie did about where you can get your polling place and all of those things. And then of course, take questions. The goals for our budget, of course, are to support student academic and social emotional needs as we continue to rebuild after more than 2 years in this worldwide pandemic. The Times Union has had an article almost every single day for months and months about the challenges faced not just in Albany, but in every single district, be it suburban, be it wealthy, be it poor, be it rural. Every school district is facing challenges because this has been incredibly difficult for our kids. And so we are emphasizing this, what we are able to do for our students using social emotional as well as their academic needs. Also, it's really critical to think about the long-term fiscal responsibility. Often school districts just sort of survive 1 year to the next because so much is dependent on state aid, and it's very hard to predict that year to year, especially in Albany where so much else changes in terms of charter schools and refugee students. But we have done our very best to plan multiple years so that we know what we are going to do over the next couple of years if the state lives up to the commitment they've made to fulfill the promise of foundation aid. And then thirdly, we're going to minimize the tax on our Albany residents. We know that Albany property taxes are higher than the surrounding communities. We don't like it. We understand why it is that way. And we have held the line on property taxes for many, many years, to the point that no longer are our property taxpayers supporting more than half of the district budget, which is the way it was when I joined the board 6 years ago. Now they're well under half of the budget. And so that's something we really are committed to. So what does the proposed budget include? Here's some of the things that we currently provide and will continue to provide. And I will not, give you all chapter and verse on each of these, but this just shows you the diversity of programming that we have in the district. We have full day pre-K in every single elementary school and in some community locations. You read in the paper, Saratoga Springs doesn't even have Shenandoah doesn't even have full day kindergarten, right? We have full day pre-K for 4-year-olds in all of our schools. We continue to support our 3 magnet elementary schools and provide an expanded dual language program, which is doubling in size. We continue to implement community schools at the schools that are listed there. These are some of our schools with the most challenged students, and we have additional resources that we use to add creative programming and make that school a real center for the community based on the needs as determined by the community members. So it's a really wonderful program. We still offer band, chorus, and orchestra starting in elementary school, and I'm happy to report that that begins now again in 3rd grade, which is a real sort of feather in Albany's cap that we're able to do that. We continue to support our Marching Falcons band and color guard, including the indoor percussion ensemble, which has been doing extremely well this year. We offer 63 athletic teams and some intramural programs. That's new this year. We're trying to enhance the intramural programs for students who are not interested in the varsity pathway. We continue to provide incredible pathways at Albany High School, including the most AP credit classes, I think, in the region, the International Baccalaureate program, and an incredible number of university and high school classes. So you can come out of Albany High with many, many, many college credits, real college credits on a college transcript. We also provide incredible career and technical education pathways in multiple pathways, from everything from what you think of as cosmetology and auto mechanics to network engineering and culinary. We also provide a technique called AVID, or a program called AVID, which is a career and college readiness program, which has been doing really great things both at Albany High and throughout our program. As you know, we've had an award-winning theater ensemble program, which we continue to support and hope to have really fully back in action next year. The auditorium at Albany High is under construction right now. Next time you're in that building to see one of our fabulous theater ensembles, you could sit in the mezzanine, which didn't exist before, but will when we're done. So that's kind of exciting. We continue to offer the Albany International Center, which is our program for refugee students who are brand new, arrived to the United States and come directly into our schools. This year, we offer that from K to 12. Prior, it was only a 7 to 12 program. And we continue to offer the Tony Clement Center for Education, which is an alternative program for students who really succeed in a smaller environment than Albany High. Social emotional supports, as I talked about, is critical and has been. That includes everything from social workers and psychologists to behavioral specialists, and instructional intervention possessions. This is basically additional support in math and reading. We're also doing a lot of work on culturally relevant teaching. This is essentially an anti-racist approach to teaching, making sure that we have considered our curriculum and that we're really serving the needs of all of our students. Restorative practices, again, is an equity-driven effort to try and address problems between students in a way that helps students build community rather than in a punitive model. So we're really proud of the work we've been doing there, and it's getting better and better. Next, I'm going to talk a little bit about some new investments. Most of you have been following in the paper that we will be changing around our feeder pattern. So we will be having more students at North Albany and bringing Hackett and Myers back into a more reasonable number of students. So they will all 3 schools 3 years from now will all be the same size. That is going to require some additional transportation, and it's also going to require some additional staffing, which we have built into this new budget. We continue to need new English as a new language teachers. This has been something that's been really challenging in Albany as we watched the number of refugees grow, and then suddenly under the Trump years shrink, and now they're growing again. Predicting enrollment in Albany is really challenging, but we are seeing a significant amount of enrollees who are English as a new language students this year. Sometimes, I don't have the number off the top of my head, but I think a couple of months ago, it was several hundred, maybe 300 new ENL students this year. Now, some students have moved on, so it's not like our program has increased by that many, but new students coming in the ground every single day. We're also building a playground. We hope, if the voters approve this budget, to build a playground. One of the things we did in order to expand our dual language program was to seat it along with that expanded K-12 AIC program at the Edmund O'Neill School, which had prior been a charter middle school, and then a middle school under our direction. And it has no playground. And we have kindergarten through 5th grade students at a school with no playground. And it's really not okay. They've been doing a great job using some of the play facilities that we have around and doing a lot of soccer and playing a lot on the streets, and not on the streets with the cars, but in a section of the road that we can close to make play space for them. But those kids need a playground like every other kid. And we are building that in. That gross motor piece is really important for students in the K-5 program. And we're continuing to increase Social Security staff and equipment. As we all know, we need to have the most secure buildings we can have in a way that is beneficial to students. We are not, it's not a punitive model, it's a safety and security model, and it's really critical to our students' academic success. We are continuing to add custodial workers as we grow our buildings, especially Albany High. We need additional custodians, and we are trying to do an increasingly better job with snow removal. So we'll be adding some equipment there to support snow removal and deliveries. We're also very excited that we expect next school year to be fully back to our normal athletics programming, which means that we will have open to the public basketball games, football games, all the games instead of limited seating. So we're going to need some additional sports supervision there. We have also added 2 new contracts. This is very sort of in the weeds, but I hope this will be making a very significant difference in our district over the next couple of years, where we're using some outside contractors to support our HVAC needs and our pool needs so that we can keep those things running as well as possible and free up some staff on the custodial side. So we're very optimistic that that's going to do wonders for us. I will not read you all the numbers on this slide. I know it has an awful lot of numbers. I do just want to point out the very bottom where it talks about total staff ratio. And you'll see that we are down to a very low ratio, the lowest we've ever had. That's the most teachers per student, or the fewest students per teacher that we've ever had. And we feel that that is absolutely essential to bringing our kids back from where they've been with COVID. You can examine this at your leisure. I'm happy to answer questions about it, but that's why this is here, to show you that really what the school budget pays for almost entirely is staffing. That is really the heart and soul of our budget. All of that wraps up together to this proposed expenditure slide. And you can see it really is a breakdown of our budget, which has administrative support, maintenance and operations, capital and debt service, which is down slightly because that's just the ebb and flow of the Albany High project. And then the program, which is essentially instruction and transportation, is the vast bulk of our budget. And then I still need to draw your attention to charter schools. While we continue to have the utmost respect for every parent and whatever choice they make for their child, whether that's private, homeschool, or charter school, the real impact on our budget is significant. We will anticipate sending almost $39 million directly to charter schools next year. And we can't close $38 million worth of classes because the charter students don't all come from just like one school or one class. So it really does stretch us because we have such a large charter school enrollment in Albany. We're one of the highest in the state in terms of the percentage of charter students. Where does the money come from to pay all of this, pay for all of this? You'll see the biggest change here is the state line. See how that state line is up by $16 million? That is the state finally beginning to fulfill the commitment they had to fund education equitably. There is a thing called the state aid formula, and every year the formula runs, and every year they give us much less money than the formula says we need. And this year, last year, they've started to close that gap, and they tell us that next year in my mind is the 23-24 budget, we will be completely filled up to the foundation aid formula. We will see, hopefully that will happen, but that is the state. That's why that number is so high, is because that's the money that the formula said we needed all these years and have not been getting. And now we're starting to get. So you'll also note here, we do anticipate a modest property tax increase. I'll talk about that in a second. We expect our federal money, that's mostly Medicare money, to be coming up slightly. And these other things are much more minor, but the other is essentially use of our appropriated fund balance, which means money that we have left over this year, we're going to transfer to next year. Trying to think if there's anything else I needed to say on this slide. I think that's the heart and soul of it. Here is our history of tax levy increases pretty much since I was on the board, and one more year. You'll notice that there is no number. Oh, I gotta get backwards. There's no number there in that whole column over 2. We have not had a property tax increase over 2% since 2013, 14. I remember, I think that was 2 point something. All right. Remember that every single year, every staff member is contractually gets a step increase, right? So we've been doing this. We've been able to do this because our state aid, with many, many thanks to Pat Fahey and John McDonald for their excellent lobbying on our behalf for increased aid to the City School District of Albany, and to Mr. Lesko and the rest of the team for the really effective job we've done in advocating for what we need. We've been able to keep these property tax increases extremely low year after year after year. So that allows us to have this long-term fiscal planning and stability. We really are looking for sustainability of programming over time. And that's something that people really need to understand when they think about those federal ARP funds. They are going away. We only have them for a very brief period. And what we don't want, we know our students' needs are going to extend beyond the time that those monies are available. And that's what this foundation aid increase should really, hopefully, especially if it continues, be able to allow us to do without having any significant property tax increases. This is the STAR information. If the voters approve this 0.9% increase, if you have a basic STAR, you will see a $50 a year increase. If you have enhanced STAR for seniors, it would be roughly $30 per year for that increase. Also, and I can't remember if we put this on a slide, there is a new rebate this year. And so a very significant, or a portion of this will be rebated to seniors and to homeowners who have an income under, I think it's $200,000, $250,000. I'm going to take a minute just to talk about those one-time federal funds. So the budget proposal I just talked about is just the money that's in the normal budget. We have these one-time funds also, and that includes both what they call the SRISA, Corona Response and Relief Supplemental Appropriations money, and the American Recovery Plan, the ARP money that we've all heard so much about. Those monies provide additional staffing and programming to support what we need to do for our students. Next year, assuming that all goes according to what we anticipate, there will still be 93 positions being paid for out of those federal funds. Hopefully, as the state foundation aid increases, we will be able to accommodate bringing as many of these folks as possible back into the budget, because these are all staff our students desperately need. These are not extraneous. Our students have not had what they needed for many years. So we're hopeful that we will be able to bring as many of these folks in as possible. We are also hopeful that COVID will start dying away and that we will see a reduction in the level of trauma that our students are experiencing. And so that we might see a modest decrease in the amount of staff that we need. It also will depend entirely on enrollment. Our enrollment has been everything from up 4% to down 4% in the last 6 years, depending on refugees, charters, and everything else happening in Albany. We're also using those federal monies for enhancing summer school and for providing some really exciting after school and extended day opportunities. So those monies have been tremendous in providing additional resources for our students. This is where I answer the question before anybody asks, what happens if the budget does not pass? All right, we will go to the polls on May 17th, and hopefully the budget will pass. If it doesn't, then the board has to face some difficult decisions. And we basically decide between just saying, are you sure, to the voters and putting up the same budget, or we can revise the budget, reduce it usually, and then put it up again, or we can go directly to what they call a contingency budget. A contingency budget is essentially a no tax increase budget because the voters have not approved the tax increase. That would require us to find about $1.5 million that we would have to not spend next year that we had planned to. So that would mean some cuts in staffing. It would certainly mean reductions in uses of supplies. And most importantly, from the people who are active in their community, it means we have to charge people to use our schools. We're not legally allowed to say, yes, you can have a meeting in our building and we won't charge you. That becomes something that we're just not allowed to do if there's a contingency budget. I hope it will not get to that point. We've always had very good results from our voters over the last many years, but if it does, that's what would happen. So I told you that there are 3 propositions. The first one I've just talked about, that's the budget. The second one is a $10 million no tax bud project, which is an energy performance contract. Essentially, it allows us to do work on HVAC and electrical upgrades, including lighting, that's going to save us money in the long run and pay for it with what they call an energy performance contract. It's a guaranteed contract that we work out with a third party whose name is Day Automation, and they guarantee that the energy savings that we will receive over this longer period will pay for the initial work that we're doing at the beginning. And so we need you all to vote to approve that $10 million outlay with the guaranteed return. The the third proposition is much, much smaller. The first, proposition 2, is $10 million. Proposition 3 is $1,800. These are 3 tiny parcels located right next to Edmund O'Neill, where we want to put that playground that I talked about. That's so important. And we're buying them from the land bank, another fantastic use of land bank resources. And in order to build the playground, we need the voters to approve this. This is another little nicety of the New York State law, is that we as a district cannot buy any property, no matter how small, without the voter approval. So we need you to approve the $1,800 so that we can buy those 3 properties and build a playground for those kids. In addition to those 3 propositions, plus the library will make 4, we have 2 Board of Education seats up for election on May 17th. Both of our incumbents who are here tonight are seeking re-election. That's Ellen Krejci and board member Tabitha Wilson. They're both seeking re-election. The deadline for others who might be interested in running is April 27th, which is next Friday. If anybody wants to run, that's when the petitions have to be in by for both school and library. And we won't know for sure who's running until then, but we do know that both Ellen and Tabitha have indicated that they plan to run again. albanyschools.org/BOE gives you how to run for school board. Also, my phone number is listed there, and I'm happy to share with people what they need to know about running on the board. And then I have in the slide the library proposal, and that they have 4 seats open. So if you know anybody who wants to run for library board, I know they've had some interest, but it's a very wonderful board and people should really think hard about it because the library is a wonderful facility for Albany. There is their contact information. Here is what we know we're doing now in terms of outreach. Tonight we're here with you. You're our first. You're the very, very first, which is always fun. And then we will have a virtual community presentation on April 25th. People can log on to. It's all on our website. We'll be coming to Common Council on the 27th to answer any questions from council members. That's something we try and do every single year. We'll be at the NAACP the following day. We'll be at Cana on May 4th. We have a technical budget hearing on May 5th. I always find these hearings to be so strange because really, if anybody wanted to provide feedback, they needed to do it before because it's too late. The ballots have already been printed. We'll have 2 more community presentations on May 10th and May 14th. If there is a contested budget board vote, we will use one of those for a meet the candidates type effort and give people a chance to ask candidate questions. And then of course, Tuesday, May 17th, the 3rd Tuesday in May is vote day. In-person voting, 7 to 9. We try and keep those polls open as long as we possibly can. Here's how you get your actual polling place, albanyschools.org/budget. Absentee voting in the state of New York in general, you cannot vote absentee just because you feel like it. You have to truly be out of town or sick, except for last budget and this budget vote. If you have concerns about potential exposure to COVID-19, you may request an absentee ballot just on the grounds of being concerned. You don't have to have COVID, you just have to be concerned about it. The process for requesting an absentee ballot is at that albanyschools.org/budget. You fill out an application, we send you a ballot, and then we can, and then you can vote absentee. I did that as concisely as I thought I could. I hope I didn't bore anybody too much. I live and breathe this stuff, so I'm excited about it, even if other people are not. But I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, or pass the torch to Ron, or someone else to answer, or take them and get back to you later. So any questions for me?
Thank you so much, Anne. That was hugely informative. Really, really appreciate it. And I would guess that somebody probably has a question. Somebody probably has a question.
Not about, I would say 80% of the people in this meeting have my cell phone number in their phone. They can just text me their question, which is also totally permitted.
I don't have a question, but I put a plug in for Principal Ted there. So I am a faculty member in the Education Studies Department at Skidmore, and we piloted a relationship, a partnership with the dual language program. So we are a 1-6 certification program. So I was really excited and happy with the opportunity.
I couldn't hear everything you said, except I heard Principal said and do a language program, and that you have a relationship through, I think, Skidmore there. Yeah. And I will add that we are super.
I'm going to get off my AirPods. That's probably what's causing the
better.
issue.
Now we can hear you. That's great.
But now you're competing with the wind. I'm outside. So I was saying that I'm an education faculty member at Skidmore College, and we piloted a partnership this spring with the dual language program. And our teacher candidates were able to come down for 3 days, what we call an intensive immersive experience, and looking at bilingual education. And that has spurred some conversations in my department, actually. The process that we'll need to do to apply for a bilingual cert for our teacher candidates. So we're hoping that in the coming year or years, we can help fill some of those needs.
That would be great, because it can be a difficult position to hire for. Absolutely. And as you probably know, Mr. Meeks, but others may not, one of the most exciting things happening in the district is that we have been working to double the size of the dual language program, which historically was what we call a 1 deep school. That means there's just 1 kindergarten, 1 first grade, 1 second grade. And we're building that into a 2 deep school now. And so this year it was pre-K and K. First we're 2 deep, and next year we're adding first grade, then second grade, then third grade, until it's a completely 2 deep program. We definitely have the interest and need to provide that, and we find that both our English speaking students and our Spanish speaking students do better in dual. It's a really wonderful program, and kids come out of that not just bilingual but also biliterate. And then we move them to Hackett Middle School, where we have a transition Spanish program where they come in and they get an enhanced Spanish, enriched Spanish curriculum, because obviously they've been doing Spanish for to K-5. They don't need like sort of the introduction to Spanish that you would normally have in a middle school. And then in Albany High, we have advanced programming for that, culminating in what they call a certificate of biliteracy, which is an additional certificate you get on top of your diploma. And it comes from New York State. So it's a wonderful, we've now kind of got the whole thing through now, which we didn't for a while. It was sort of like K-5 and then a little wishy-washy in middle school, and then hopefully picked it back up in Albany High. But now we have a really nice continuation thread. So it's great.
Thank
Marilyn,
you for that.
You had a question?
Yes, I was just wondering, no, I'm not on mute.
I can hear you.
Okay, I was just wondering, is there any kind of a statistical breakdown of immigrant, refugee, general population in the schools in Albany?
Yes, there is. And I don't have the numbers exactly in my head. I will tell you that around roughly 14% of our enrollment has a special ed, right? That's roughly 14% are special education. And there were a couple of years when our refugee numbers were so high that the number of ENL students was higher than the number of special education students. So that gives you a sense of the scale, right? We're looking at about 15, 16%. That has come down a little bit during the Trump era. Because essentially the doors closed. And I know we're all watching the news. We're all watching what's going to happen next with additional refugees coming from the South, and of course, Ukrainian refugees to join the many refugees we have from all over the world. Ron, do you know that number off the top of your head?
We're at just about 10% currently. We had been, as Ann noted, we had been as high as 14 or 15% a number of years ago when immigration regulations, federal immigration regulations were different, and then, as she noted, they changed, and they've changed back again. So we're starting to see some growth, but right now we're right at about 10% of our total student population.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Virginia.
Virginia, you're muted. Virginia.
Right back. I know. Okay, I got it. And that was a very good presentation. That's what I said first. And now I will ask, what's going on in the high school? Since we don't have any children there anymore, that we see this gigantic thing, and I would like to look inside one of these days and see all the great things that are in there, apparently. So could you tell us?
Yeah. I can. So we did a ribbon cutting back in the life before COVID, and we will do it one again when we can, and have people coming back in. But there is, as you know, the project is enormous. And so the kinds of things that are already done, there is a brand new 3-story academic building, which sits behind the main Albany High, right? That's what we opened right before COVID hit. And we had this beautiful building, and then suddenly no students in it. It was just a killer. That's what sits behind. On the front, so if you're on Washington Avenue and you're looking at the building, there's a whole new wing off to the left. That is all new spaces for music and art. So many problems, which you guys know, I spieled at you about this when we were trying to get the bond referendum passed for Albany High. But that building, which was built in 1974, was built just extremely poorly. And among other things, had many, many, many interior classrooms with no windows. It was terrible. So the beauty of these new art rooms where you actually have natural light in the art rooms, it's just wonderful. And so it's all new rehearsal space, band, orchestra, chorus, art. And that is all open and it's been in use for the bulk of this school year. Now we are working on the what used to be the classroom building at Albany High, where most of the classrooms were. That will become several things, but right now they're focused on the career and technical education aspects to it. So right now, much of our career and technical education school is at a Brooklyn. You can see me waving behind me as if we're standing in front of Albany High, right next door, essentially to the co-op. And so the students have to go back and forth, right? When you're a CTA student, once we're done, and we're working on this right now, barbershop, cosmetology, auto mechanics, network engineering, all of that will be in Albany High proper. And it's super exciting to see that happening right now. That's what's being built right now. The other thing, as I mentioned, the auditorium will be completely new, all new lights, sound, curtain, behind the stage, seats. The only thing, they're keeping that wall, that anti-sound stuff on the wall, which was never my favorite, but it was perfectly good and no reason we had to replace it. So the walls will look the same. Adding on the mezzanine so that we can get more people in that space, and that will be open next school year. So that will be open soon. Then the following thing, the thing that happens after that is brand new cafeteria space in what we currently think of as the courtyard. So if those of you who know the building know, when you approach it, you look down off the ramp and you can see this big open space. That will be inside. When all is said and done, that will be inside, and that will be essentially a brand new sort of cafeteria space. There's also a brand new library, which I think is mostly done. I've seen pictures. Ron
Yes.
looks like he's nodding yes, done. Tabitha, thank you. So we're really making good progress on everything, and the kids are using the building every single day. Every space, as soon as it gets open, we put the students in it, and it looks great. And we do have some pictures which I can send around of where it is. And I know that we are really looking forward to being able to do a real ribbon cutting again and have people come like we did before. Does that give you enough without me going on too much?
And I did want to chime in too. We will be holding a ribbon cutting ceremony to let the community come in and see all of those new spaces in the late summer or early fall. We'll be doing the same thing in North Albany Middle School when that work is done in the late summer as well. So a lot of fantastic new spaces in the school district that we're excited for everybody to have the opportunity to come in and see.
And as usual, you were really thorough, and I just didn't know if you mentioned also the freight farm, the CTE space for automotive, and the last thing I'm thinking of, I can't recall. Oh, obviously the barbering and salon for hairdressing. So I feel like we covered so many elements in this rebuild, in this expansion and update.
Yeah, I absolutely. Those CTE spaces are really phenomenal. And the freight farm I did not mention, which is essentially a hydroponic, a hydroponic tool for both for learning and for growing vegetables and greens that our students will be using. That's in place now. So that's so many exciting things happening.
And then last but not least, mention the new tennis courts.
I did not mention the tennis courts, brand new tennis courts behind Albany High. So those are good. Those are there and playing and looking good. So thank you. So the danger of asking us these questions is we can go on and on because there's even more. We have 2 new playgrounds at Toast. We have new turf field that for the kids at Delaware Community School, where there used to just be sort of a dust pile because the kids would just play on it and the grass would be destroyed. So it's just, there's so many good things happening, all with the much appreciation to the taxpayers of the city of Albany, who have always been truly supportive of both schools and libraries. It's one of the things that makes me the most proud of living in Albany. Anything else?
Wow, thank you, Anne, and all of the other board members that were here, and Ron, of course, it's always good to see you, and Mr. Yagelski, I'm sorry I didn't say your name correctly. This has been very informative, and I'm sure that everybody on here will be sharing the information that they learned and telling people where to find more information about what's going on with Albany schools. So thank you all. We really appreciate you being here, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks so much. Good to see you guys. Bye-bye.
Absolutely. All right. But everyone else, we still have our meeting. Now we have our regular topics to discuss. And I think the first item on our agenda is Luke with CUCR, even though you have a new role. Don't you have a new role?
Yeah, but it's kind of the same role. It's just, different title and I, no longer with the conduct piece. And so you'll still see me. I'm still here, still kicking around. CUCR, we had a really good meeting here a couple weeks ago, and we had our new Vice President of Research and Economic Development come in, and he spoke to the committee, and the mayor was there. And the reason why the mayor showed up And the reason why Kesh, our new VPR, was present is because we got a $75 million allocation in the state budget. Woohoo! Yes, and thank you to all of you who assisted us over the last 8 years in advocating for this funding. It is going to help us finally finish the former Albany High School building and turn it into the new state-of-the-art engineering program that we have been dreaming of. So very excited. We actually will start seeing some individuals inhabiting that building, at least a portion of it, in the fall of 2023. So that is what the new timeline is the fall of 2023, the south wing will be inhabited. And then we're still waiting on some bids to come in now that we have the funding for the north wing and the auditorium. And so we're really excited about that. And obviously that means that we're going to be reaching back out to the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association, the Beverwick Neighborhood Association, Center Square, and saying, okay, now that it's built, now that it's up and running, what do you guys want to do with it? We want to see the community involved in it. We want to see, meetings being hosted in that space. We want to see some level of involvement. We've already reached out to the City of Albany School District to see if we can get some of the K through 12 population into that building on a pretty regular basis, either in the Maker Tinker space with the 3D printers and the all the soldering irons and all of that stuff, the cool things, right? But also just exposing them to, what it's like to be, at a higher education institution in a state-of-the-art facility. So, but beyond that, whether it's plays in the auditorium or neighborhood association meetings, in the meeting rooms, we want to see that level of community involvement. So we're excited, as you can probably tell. We're also, getting some money for our AI supercomputing cluster, which is, again, the brainchild of our new Vice President of Research. And we're hoping that this is going to generate jobs throughout the area. So his estimate is around between 1,000 to 1,500 jobs coming in because of this new supercomputing cluster, which is going to help us kind of drive innovation, with hopefully, fingers crossed, CNSE moving forward, right? And that could be, self-driving technology. It could be, robotic, health related situations. It could be just about anything. I mean, we use AI in our phones, right? When we're talking about, getting directions and things along those lines. So it's exciting. And he does a much better job of explaining it than I do. But all of it is something that we're really looking forward to over the next course of the 5 to 10 years that we're going to be, building this out. The big event is coming up this weekend. And so for any of you that are around, and I'm looking at you, Leah, middle of my screen, and certainly anybody else who would like to join Leah and myself, we are going to be stationary in the Ridgefield Park. And from 11:30 to about 3:30, we will have students showing up. My last count was a little over 250. So that is exciting. We're hoping to get that up to 300. And we'll be going out and doing some cleanup, picking up trash and things of that nature. We will have t-shirts this year. So courtesy of the City of Albany and the Department of General Services, they are purchasing t-shirts and they will be giving them to the volunteers. And so if you come, you get a free t-shirt. And I'll promise to give you some breakfast snacks, granola bars, mini muffins, whatever you need. And then we do have our Out of the Darkness Suicide Prevention Walk occurring on Sunday. So that's on campus. For those of you that are familiar with that, it's an annual event. All the proceeds goes to help bring awareness to and certainly, the prevention of suicide, both on campus and off. And so we really obviously would appreciate any support you guys are able to come forward with. If you guys are interested and you want to walk, let me know. I will be there. My entire office will be there. Congressman Tonko, Mayor Sheehan, Executive McCoy, and the governor is sending a staffer to attend as well on her behalf. And so that's exciting. And then last but not least, graduation for us is May 12th through the 15th. So we are very close. We're a month out. Hard to believe. Actually 3 weeks, scary. But we're excited about that as well. Our big graduation ceremony is going to be on the 14th. And that's for all of our undergrads, but we will have small graduation ceremonies occurring so that family members can individually walk or watch their son or daughter cross the stage. And so that's exciting as well. And that's it.
Great. Thank you so much, Luke. Does anyone have any questions? Oh, you know what? I just wanted to say for anybody listening, I said CUCR, and just so that people know what that is, it's the Committee on University and Community Relations, which I meant to say before. So thank you very much. All right, sounds like nobody has any questions for Luke, right? So we can move on to public safety. We have many APD representatives in this meeting. So is Officer Aquaviva going to give us an update?
Hi, everyone. I'm here.
Hey, Joe.
So,
Was that you?
hi, everybody. Things have not been awful. We did have a couple of burglaries in the neighborhood over the past month, but they were domestic related burglaries. We do have suspects on it. They were the exes or whatever, former partners of the people who were burglarized. So those are being taken care of. We did have shots fired just over a month ago at Myrtle and Quail. I did follow up with the detective office just to get some updates on that. And I was told that although we have not made an arrest yet, I guess an arrest is imminent. I think they have suspects in mind of who they need to go out and get. They just have not either tripped over them or have all their paperwork in order to do that. They're in the college neighborhood. We did have a large fight on the 27th over on Hudson Avenue, where there was an assault and a menacing that took place. Firstly, I want to note that it's probably the largest or first disturbance that we've had that's been that large in the neighborhood. So I mean, I don't want to diminish anyone's quality of life, but at the same time, it's kind of a nice thing that it's the only one to date that we note. I did reach out to the detectives on that to see if there was any updates, although that they work midnights and I haven't heard back from them. So I'm waiting to hear from one of the midnight guys to let me know if there's been any movement on that case itself. Is there anything else that anyone else maybe heard of and I can clarify or anything like that? Or is there any questions of me? Okay.
Doesn't sound like it. Thank you very much, Joe. I guess I just want to say that, yeah, I look forward to the issue of shots fired at Quail and Myrtle, that hopefully coming to a resolution, because that was disturbing because it happened, very early in the evening. It was still light outside, and in an area that is where we don't usually see that kind of issue. So it is a concern for the immediate neighbors. And I know I've been speaking with our council member about that. So appreciate all your work on it and the detectives as well.
As soon as I hear something, I can send something out to the neighborhood association so everybody gets that info.
Yep. Great. Thank you. All right. Any other questions for Joe? Don't think so. All right. Thank you so much, Joe, and the rest of the APD folks who joined us. Zoning and code enforcement is next on the agenda. So Rick couldn't be here tonight. Zoning and code enforcement is actually usually where we discuss items that were before the planning board or the Board of Zoning Appeals. And there was an item before the planning board that the neighborhood association has weighed in on. It was a project in the vicinity of Western and Quail that the neighborhood association supported when it first came on to the agenda back in 2019. We had a big meeting with the developer. They took a lot of questions. They took some of our advice back then. And then we waited for a really long time and nothing happened. Well, it turned out that they were really over budget with that project, and so they needed to scale it back. So that project came back before the planning board. We did discuss it at the last neighborhood association meeting in March. The neighborhood association board did weigh in support of the project. We did have some concerns that we expressed, and that city staff, planning staff, actually supported all of our requests. But unfortunately, those requests seem to have gotten to the board a little bit too late. So when the planning board voted, they did not include conditions that supported the request of the neighborhood association. So some of the things, won't happen. We do think some of the things that we asked still will happen. For instance, we want to be sure that when the buildings get demolished, that there is an opportunity for salvage for historic Albany. And there was an indication that that was definitely going to happen, though we didn't get it in writing. So, it will be a really good project. It will bring more people to the neighborhood, and when it happens, it will be positive. So that's that update, because Rick could not be here tonight. The next item on our agenda is the Midtown Pine Hills Committee. And Carolyn is on vacation, but she did write up a report that I'm going to read. So she said, Midtown Pine Hills Committee has not met since January due to a family emergency for Carolyn, who's now on vacation. Therefore, we're combining the April and May Midtown Pine Hills Committee meetings into one meeting on Monday, May 2nd at 7 p.m. on Zoom. So if you do not have a link and would like to join us, you can email Carolyn or just send an email to the neighborhood listserv, and we'll get you that link. Our trash and litter subcommittee has embarked on a social media campaign to draw attention to issues of trash, litter, and recycling. Look for posts on the Midtown Pine Hills Committee and the Pine Hills Neighborhood Association Facebook page. And when you see the posts, please share them. And also, she says that our Trees and Streets Subcommittee is working on a pilot project to address the issues with blacktop coverage on maintenance strips. That's the area between the curb and the sidewalk. And we're trying to get more trees into the area of Hudson, Hamilton, and Quail Streets. And we will soon begin discussions that I have planned for fall at our next meeting. So we will talk about fall plans at our next meeting. And again, that will be Monday, May 2nd at 7 p.m. on Zoom. So that's the update from the Midtown Pine Hills Committee. Upper Madison, Maryland.
Okay, first of all, when Anne is not school boarding, she is the chair of the Upper Madison Street Fair Committee, and we have been meeting. We started meeting last month, and we meet. The steering committee meets at the end of the month. We'll be meeting next Friday. We're obviously always looking for volunteers to take on leadership roles. Particularly what we're looking for this year is someone to coordinate the rummage sale. We've had a rummage sale the last few years. It's been very successful, and particularly successful this past year. So if you know anyone who might be interested in taking on that role, there always are volunteers to work on the day of the fair, and also in pricing and all the rest of it, but we do need a coordinator. And also our Pine Hills Film Series is doing well. We are averaging 25 to 30 attendees. Our next film is Face in the Crowd, which will be on Thursday, May 12th at 7 p.m. at the Madison Theater. It's a free attendance, though we do ask for a small donation just to cover our costs of purchasing the films, etc. Brett Sears is lining up bands for the concert series, which will begin in mid-July and go through to the end of August. This year, as last year, it is being coordinated by the Elks Lodge, for whom we are very, very grateful that they've been willing to take this on. And I know that this is a popular event in the summer, and I hope all of you will put that down. It's on the first Monday. It will be the middle of July. It will start, and it's on Mondays right through to the end of August. And also, you'll be seeing some work in the neighborhood, one of which is, and I'll ask Virginia to speak a little bit on this, which is the upgrade of the juniors block with trees, pavement, etc. Virginia?
Yeah, we were just out there today, and it looks like they've already marked some where some of the utility lines are, because as Marilyn said, this infrastructure on that block will replace those bricks that were laid down numbers of years ago and that have not held up well. And so all those bricks will be between the sidewalk and the street will be taken up. The trees will be all replaced. Unfortunately, some of them are, still okay, but apparently if you take one up, which they will have to because of the ash borer, then all the rest of them kind of have to go. And it's my understanding that they're not going to plant as many as were there before. So they're going to space them out somewhat more than they are now. And they also will apparently remove, and at least they have removed at least one light pole. So we're not sure exactly what it's going to look like, but we've been assured that it's going to be very nice, much safer. There will be no grates around the trees, which is very good because grates are not healthy for trees. And instead, there's going to be some kind of special mixture like they use in New Scotland, which will apparently lessen the need for lots of watering because the mixture is supposed to retain water and cut down on weeds. So that work is starting this month, and Frank Zioli from DGS says it should be finished before the beginning of the outdoor dining season. So that's for that block. And then we also received some good information from the city about the Price Chopper block because Price Chopper has a concern about the maintenance and liability relating to the promenade, what we're calling the infrastructure upgrade on that block, which has new benches and shelters. And they were concerned about that. So we got a letter back from Corp Council saying more or less that the Price Chopper was not responsible for cleaning up around the shelters and around the benches, but only to make sure that the sidewalk was clear of snow. So we're hoping that now we can move on with Price Chopper's blessing to continue to design that area, which will start the work, and that will start next year. I think that's about it there.
Okay, and the only other thing I wanted to mention is you'll be seeing George's Nursery coming into DeWitt Clinton Park to clean up, spruce up, do any replacement perennial plantings, also annual plantings. We eventually will have geraniums around the monument, which is done by two Master Gardener volunteers. Barbara and Lenora, which they've done it for the last few years, and we're very grateful to them. You'll also be seeing, I'm not sure when, but our planters, Virginia has been keeping track of that with Verstandix, and they will be coming in. Hopefully the weather will notice that we want flowers and will cooperate and make it spring-like. And all of this, of course, happens because of the generosity and support that we get at the annual Upper Madison Street Fair, which is where we do get most of our money for any kinds of upgrade that we want to do in the Upper Madison area. Okay, that's about it.
Great, thank you, Upper Madison. Do we have a membership update? Is Will able to give a membership update?
I'm here. So we just put out the membership email. We've already started getting back people renewing. So we were at around 30 people paid in 2022 yesterday, and we're already up closer to 40. So that's going well. We've already gotten some questions from people, so I've been answering those through the email. So yeah, the email went to over 100 people as a reminder to renew their membership. The only thing I haven't sent out yet is the one for businesses. Still have some final details to for that email, but that'll go back around to the board, the membership committee for approval when that's done. So yeah, as I mentioned, in 2022, we're currently at, I believe, 39 total members, and 17 of those members are actually new to this year. And that probably coincides pretty well with the creation of a membership committee, which has been pretty successful.
Great. Thank you very much. And just a quick update on the post office. There's really not much to update. Just please remember to use the post office at 363 Ontario. That's the corner of Ontario and Park Avenue. I see a lot of people can't figure out that that's a post office there, but it is. So use it while we have it, and stay tuned for more post office news. All right. Elected officials. Who do we have with us? We have Megan. I see Megan. I thought I saw Lucy too. Megan, why don't you go first?
Hey everyone. Sorry for popping in late. I also had a Human Rights and Human Resources Committee meeting tonight, and the Helderberg Neighborhood Association. So I'm on my third meeting since 5:30. Just to give a brief rundown of what's been happening in the council, in case you guys are not on my newsletter list. We have gone through and made sure that all of our various citizen represented boards, including the Human Rights Commission, the Planning Board, the Board of Zoning Appeals, the Historic Resources Commission, all of those citizen representatives have either been reappointed or vacancies have been filled so that those entities can continue to run and function. The council is continuing to deliberate on local law C. For anyone on this call who's not familiar, local law C is legislation that sort of would codify many of the elements that came out of the police reform and reinvention collaboration. We are, I think, growing ever closer to some consensus between some of the concerns that some members of the council had with that legislation. I personally was very concerned about the way in which the public safety commissioner position was structured, because the commission itself would hire and appoint that person, And that person would be at the will of the commission, and the commission would be an entity that is appointed by the council and the mayor. And it sort of obscured our oversight and responsibility regarding the police department, and caused me to have some significant concerns with how government would be answerable to the people of the city of Albany. Local law A, which would allow, if passed, this is another piece of legislation that would be put up for referendum to the voting public in the city of Albany. The next general election should be coming up for a vote. That legislation would allow for the council to potentially terminate commissioners once every 4 years. It is not something that I personally support. I believe that Owusu has a very different opinion on this legislation. If anyone has questions about that, I'm happy to answer those questions or discuss that with you. And we just tonight received on the Human Rights and Human Resources Committee the sort of preliminary report on the city's pay equity study, which hopefully, as we move into the 2023 budget cycle, will move the city in a direction where our pay structure, pay scale, both internally and regionally, is equitable, which will help us to kind of recruit and retain qualified staff in the city of Albany, but also ensure that folks who are in protected classes are being compensated in accordance with the way they should be compensated, based upon, various different factors. And I don't want to take up too much of your time. So if anybody has any questions for me on what's happening within the council, please feel free to raise your hand. I don't think we do chat here, correct? Yes, no, maybe?
We actually do have chat enabled right now.
Okay.
We went crazy tonight. We rebelled.
I was gonna say H&A had the chat up and running. I will put my email and my phone number in the chat as I always do. But that's, since I last met with you guys, I think a month ago, I mean, that's been largely the business that the council has been processing through, which has been a lot. Oh, and I forgot, the sidewalk cafe legislation was also passed. There were some concerns I had with language, and the agreement that I had with the planning committee is that I would submit amended language to that legislation that more clearly addresses how much clearance has to be on a sidewalk for people to get through, because right now the language is not very clear, and also addresses the issue of cafes operating on both sides of the sidewalk simultaneously. We do have areas of the city where there is really not space to do tables other than the curb. And so I think the compromise there is to allow one or the other to occur, but not both to occur at the same time. I have gotten some feedback, particularly from visually impaired folks, that having cafes going on the sidewalk on both sides is really difficult for them to navigate through that space as a result of noise interference, so on and so forth. So I'm looking to kind of try and tweak that in a way that will get through the council with those amendments.
Great. Thank you for that update, Megan. Does anyone have any questions for Megan?
Megan, just quickly,
Awesome.
has the council taken any action on the residential permit parking? I know that there was some changes that were being debated. I think Councilmember Bull-Aaron had put those up. Have you guys voted on that yet or no?
We did. It was voted on. It was passed. Essentially, that legislation, the modification to that law follows the original intent of the residential parking permit system, which is that people without a residential parking permit would not be able to park in those zones for more than 2 hours. And so now that is going to function by zone. I think there's roughly 3 different zones, and you will not be able to park for more than 2 hours unless you have a residential parking permit, Monday through Friday business hours within that zone. So they have the license plate readers to be able to kind of properly deal with that aspect. And they did not have really the technology in place to fully enforce it originally when this legislation was passed, and they now have the technology to be able to do it. And so that's one of the reasons why that legislation went through.
Thanks, Megan.
All right, any other questions for Megan? All right, doesn't sound like it. So Owusu was here, but he must have had to leave because I do not see him. Does anyone see Owusu? Is he hiding behind the screen somewhere?
I don't see him. I can
No.
text him.
Yeah, I mean, I already texted him before. That's why he showed up. So, that's okay because we're gonna wrap up. So thanks everyone for being here tonight. Now, normally I would say that our next meeting will be held on the 3rd Thursday of May. However, we are considering returning to in-person meetings at the Albany Public Library. And if you recall, Melanie from the library said that they don't have after hours availability, which would mean that we wouldn't be able, if we do decide to meet at the library in May, we would not be holding our meeting at 7 p.m. on the 3rd Thursday. It would be at a different day. So stay tuned. Our May meeting may be on the 3rd Thursday of May via Zoom, or it may be in person at the Pine Hills branch of the Albany Public Library at a time that will be announced to our Google group. So does anyone have any announcements that they need to make prior to the end of this meeting? Perry?
Just a quick one. The Albany Damien Center is having our Earth Day cleanup tomorrow at 2 o'clock. We're gonna take the staff and our volunteers, and we're doing a full 1-block radius up Madison and around 88th Street to do a nice spring cleaning of the streets, the sidewalks, and other people's front lawns. So if anyone would love to join us, 2 o'clock, we'll be out there with our gloves and our bags and things. But you know, we're always keeping the street in front of us clean, but this is kind of our spring cleaning for Earth Day. So just wanted to let everybody know about that.
Awesome, thank you. All right. Any other announcements? All right, sounds good. Great to see everyone. We'll see you around the neighborhood soon. Have a great night. Bye.